Good morning, Tallahassee. It's time to wake up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hajavandi and Corey Clark.
Welcome into the program, folks. Monday edition of Wake Up War Chant. You already know who it is, but I'll just remind you in case you don't know. I'm Aslan. He's Corey Clark. The show brought to you by For the Table Hospitality in 3 great locations over in the College Town District, Madison Social, Central, and Township. Corey, how are you, my friend?
Good, buddy. How are you? Did you have a good weekend?
I did, man. I did. I was all ready to just do a nice, lazy weekend. Had some friends come down from Dothan. And then, like, Friday night, Florida State drops an email, boom, like, hey, we're going to be doing stuff tomorrow with the football team. And I'm like, okay, well, audible, hot route, no longer Spider Y2 Banana. But it was cool. It was a good audible. They did all that charity stuff on Saturday. Yeah,
what? Did you go to it?
Yeah, so they went to, I don't know, like, what would you consider the south side of Tallahassee?
Yeah, to Wakulla?
Yeah, so I don't know. I would say that they were on the south side of Tallahassee. They were 1 mile, maybe 1 mile and change south of Doak Campbell off Lake Bradford. Alberta Empire is the name of the neighborhood. You probably never heard of it. Because there's probably, unless you know somebody who lives in there, you're not going to really go into that. There's nothing else really out there. So they're out there doing Habitat for Humanity. There was, I guess there's actually more than one house they were working on, but the address they gave us, and by us, I mean everybody in the media, so, all the TV stations were out there. I think we were the only website that was there, unless they were at one of the other houses. But I know the only people I saw there was Seminoles.com and then WXTL or TXL, and then CTV was out there too. But they were working on a house for Habitat for Humanity in the morning, and then on the other side of town, Kes McCorvey had some sort of skills camp for younger guys, younger kids, with a lot of players actually showed up and helped out with that, and Ira covered that. So, yeah, it was a busy day of giving back to the community. 1 week after 61,000 people had showed up to watch him play football quietly and silently. A couple dozen kids went out there. What could have been their first day off, their first weekend off from football, but they were out there still doing stuff, man. It's pretty cool. Yeah,
it is cool. It's just good vibes, good karma, putting it back in the universe.
Yeah.
That's always a good thing to do.
You get out what you put in. So,
yeah.
I was out there, and yeah, they were working on a house. So Cam Akers was there, Stanford Samuels. I asked Cam Akers if he was the Picasso of painting walls and doors, and he said that he was. He had to teach Stanford Samuels III of how to paint. So yeah, they were painting.
Now, are they really? I've never been to one of those. I mean, I've been to one of those things, but actually doing it, not watching football players do it. Are they really putting in the work? Like, are they hammering nails and hauling lumber and painting?
On that house, they were. I saw like Adonis Thomas, and there's a support staff coach who's always like, he's like Willie's like right hand kind of guy. He was out there as well. But yeah, I mean, I saw Adonis Thomas like throwing pallets in a dumpster they had out front. George Campbell and Janarius Robinson were shoveling dirt out of a wheelbarrow or out into a wheelbarrow. I don't know. They were shoveling, though. They had shovels in their hands. They were doing some sweat equity for sure. But then Cam was inside. Fred Jones was inside. Stanford Samuels. Who else I see? I saw Alex Marshall, the tall, he's like 6'7", 6'8", redshirt freshman tight end from the Northeast. He was in there. So yeah, I mean, they're grabbing doors and swinging them around and putting them inside the wall. Yeah, I mean, they're working, man. It's not a photo op. I mean, they obviously invite us to go out there to reflect and show what these kids are doing in the community, but this wasn't just football players just playing grab rear end or whatever out there. They're actually putting in the work. And like Cam Akers was like seriously painting. Like he was pointing out to Stanford Samuels III and like telling him, hey, you missed a spot, do this, do that. It was kind of cool to see these kids come together. And apparently, we got Fred Jones, Adonis Thomas, who's that linebacker transfer who originally signed with Alabama, then went to a JUCO in Mississippi, and then came to Florida State last year, and then Cam. And, we just kind of all asked them, does this benefit you guys at all in terms of being a team? And all of them were like, absolutely. Like, this is just another way that we can bond and get closer together. And that's been sort of the theme of everything since Willie got here. So, obviously if it's 4th and 1 in Death Valley, it'll be in Tallahassee this year, but I don't know where they got to go. Miami, Coral Gables, wherever the heck that stadium is now. If it's 4th and 1, I don't know if it's going to help move the pile, but maybe it'll give them some more desire. They're starting to play for each other and bond. So there's got to be some sort of legitimacy to it, I would assume, or else they wouldn't be doing all this.
And even if there isn't, even if it doesn't help the football team at all, well, it helped other people.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sorry for being selfish, everybody. Yeah, so it's definitely a good thing.
Hey, were they playing music during it? Did they have the big speakers going?
No music. Just the sound of I don't even know what kind of saw it was. Yeah, just like hammering and then some sort of saw. I don't know what the name of the saw is. But yeah, if you subscribe to our War Chant TV over on YouTube, folks, subscribe to it. It's free of charge. You can get the very latest on this podcast. Actually gets uploaded to YouTube. We have several thousand people that actually digest this program over on YouTube, but you can see the video of the entire sort of charity sort of stop they did on Saturday. Ira's got video from the Kes McCorvey Skills Camp. So if you didn't get to see that stuff, folks, just subscribe to YouTube free of charge. It'll let you know whenever we post a video for More Chant, and you can be the very latest to get your fix from the ultimate Seminole source. And
also subscribe to War Chant just in general.
Yes.
Now, that's not free of charge, but it's worth every penny.
It is. It also will help me potentially get hair implants at some point as I'm losing the battle up top. Corey's already thrown in the towel. Corey has conceded defeat to Father Time. I shan't.
Mm-hmm.
I will persevere and push on. Another thing, though, Corey, about, we talk about, fun, bonding, coming together. I don't know. We'll obviously see in September and October how much this will all mean. But somebody had posted on the Tribal Council, which is warchant.com's premium forums, the best forums in all of Florida State sports. Something about...
In all of sports, period, I would say.
I don't want to come off too cocky and arrogant, but you ain't lying.
Probably the best message board on the planet.
I would... Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah. I mean, Reddit wants to probably own us, but, we're not going to sell out to them.
Right, good.
But somebody posted something on the boards about Marvin Wilson and how he's a beast, and he's dropped from like 340 to 310 pounds, and he posted a photo on his Instagram about it. So everybody's like, well, where's the photo? And the guy's like, oh, I don't know how to link it. So me being the intrepid digital director or whatever they call me on my business card, I'm like, well, let me go find it, I guess, right? Let me go find the photo and I'll post it, which I don't like doing, Corey. We've had this sort of conversation a few times.
Mm-hmm.
I feel weird hunting kids down on social media. I mean, I know it's part of the way things are these days, but it still feels a little bit weird. But anyhow, I go onto his Instagram page, and the things I don't even find the photo, right? There's no photo. The guy made it sound like it was some sort of like side-by-side comparison, like a before and after photo, right? So I couldn't find that. But on his page, one of the first 3 or 4 images or videos, like it was the actual scouting tape, like the full 22 from practice that they filmed. Because when we're out in the fields, they have those forklifts, or not forklifts, whatever those lifts are.
Yeah,
they can get
the
up
towers.
Yeah, there you go. So and it tells you everything. It says like what day it is, what period it is, and it said something along the lines of like it said like Florida team building. Or Florida State, everybody. I know what team I'm covering. Florida State.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, right.
You want to restart the show?
Yeah, I know, right? Seriously. Oh, this guy's the worst. He's the worst. So it literally says on the video something along the lines of Florida State team building, and it's like a semicircle, and Marvin Wilson, I think he fielded a punt. I think that's what it was. Like everybody was behind Marvin Wilson and surrounding him, and he fielded a punt. He caught it cleanly, and just did like a little shimmy DJ Matthews wannabe stutter step thing and spiked the ball and just got mobbed by everybody. So, I mean, it's a really cool thing to kind of see. I mean, I felt dirty at first, but I'm like, well, this is, again, we'll see how this all works out come Labor Day. But, I'm going to slowly start becoming a more positive person. I'll do like a mid-year's resolution or whatever, but I mean, ultimately, I don't know. I think I totally underestimated probably just how bad things were before I got here in terms of team morale. This stuff has to help. I mean, it has to help. Even on a Saturday when you're playing a game, when you're actually playing the game, when it matters, this stuff has to matter, does it not?
Of course. I mean, I don't know. Have you been in a newsroom where like the boss or one of the bosses just was almost an impossible person to deal with? Have you been lucky enough to avoid that?
Actually, no. The first boss I had in Dothan was a pretty unpopular leader. So yeah, okay.
And so when just because I'm using that so other people can relate. Obviously, most people that are listening to this, and you and I have never been a part of a college football team. But when you're a part of an organization where the guy at the top or the woman at the top, the person who's in charge or above you is miserable. It seems to make your life miserable. It is never happy. Never offers praise, only criticism. It wears on you, and it gets to be a chore. And that's just, again, I think that's human nature. Now, some people fight through it, and some teams fight through it. But this Florida State team was done. Last year they were done with it. That message was done. And yeah, imagine going from that. Excuse me. Sorry, everyone. Imagine going from that to a guy that praises so much, that you have so much fun, and there's actually a reason to look forward to practice. And look, practice is always going to be hard, but that kind of stuff does matter. You when you like the people that you work with, you care about the product more. It's just human nature. That's just how it is. When you like the person you work for, you don't want to let them down. Same deal. And I just think that translates into sports more often than not. I just think the days of Bear Bryant making you eat dust in 120-degree heat and getting half the team to quit because they're all babies and they can't handle being tough, but we're going to be winners, that stuff is over. It's done. That doesn't work anymore. This is the way, to me. I honestly hope that Dabo and Willie are the new future of college football. Try to make it fun again, man. Just try to. It used to be fun. It wasn't so serious. And these guys they weren't 4-star generals trying to protect secrets. It was fun. And I think all of this is part of that. Make it fun again, please.
I don't want to throw a compliment this guy's way, but I feel like even at some points, just seeing with the national guys, right? Even the practices at Ohio State, like under Urban Meyer, he even throws a few curveballs and keeps the guys fairly, entertained and loose. It's just really Nick Saban that's the one person who's ultimately the gold standard, that there's that sort of still old school mentality, it feels like, where he just doesn't suffer fools easily and just gets after everybody. But he's just one guy.
I also don't think Nick screams at his players all the time. At least in the stuff I've seen on ESPN where they do, and I know you were there, so you would know better than me. I'm sure he's a hard ass. I can say that, right? But I also think he praises, and I don't think it's a constant soundtrack of him screaming all the time.
It was that. It literally, you'd walk by and it would always hear the other guy yelling. It was like clockwork.
Yeah. Yep, you would. It was never not yelling. And I just don't. I think Saban is not quite like that. I think he's a hard ass, like I said. Hopefully, I hope I can't say that, but I don't think he's the kind of guy that would that beats you down. If you can't play, he'll tell you can't play. If you made a mistake, he'll tell you can't make a mistake. But the things I've seen when ESPN watches a practice and does a behind the scenes thing, he seems kind of calm at times. On the field, he can lose his mind in the game. But in practice, sometimes it does look like he's calm and teaching a good portion of the time.
Yeah, no, he is. He's definitely not. He's maniacal, on the sideline on Saturday. You'll see him go after, Lane Kiffin back in the day or whoever, I think he was yelling at Jeremy Pruitt during the Iron Bowl, too. But, yeah, at practice, he's pretty level-headed and realizes this is the time to teach and install and be calm. I don't know how much.
It seems like the Alabama guys do have a certain. They do seem to get along. They do seem to have fun. They do play for each other. They always play hard. So something's going on in that program. It's not just, Alabama's Alabama. There is something that's fostered there that makes those players play hard and play well and play for each other that I think is pretty rare.
So, there's guys that there's friends on this team, and I don't think nobody was getting along in the past. It's just, I don't know, maybe now it's more widespread, and that way it'll be more impactful.
You know who it was? I think it was Carlos Becker. And I can't remember if we talked about this when it happened a couple weeks ago or not. But he told me, I know we talked about it on Seminole Headlines, but that the best part of this spring practice for him was getting to know guys that he had never talked to before. Jeez. Actually getting to know other guys that he didn't have any relationship with at all, didn't know. I assume he knew their names, but didn't know anything about them and never had conversations with them. But this spring, he's done that and gotten to know a lot more of his teammates. It's man, that's weird. He's a junior, he's an upperclassman. And he's talking about guys that he's played with for years that he had no relationship with, didn't know anything about them, had never talked to them. He literally said there were people on the team that he had never talked to before that he was getting to know. That's what's that's odd to me. And I know 85, 100 people is a lot of guys to get to know, but I just think if you're a close-knit football program, you know every guy on your team, right?
Do you lose and then you grow apart? or do you grow apart and that's why you start losing?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I don't know. That's a really good question. To me, it sounds like they might have, because, he's been here with, Carlos Becker had been here when they, had 10-win seasons. So it's not like he only stopped not talking to his teammates and I'm not just throwing him under the bus. I think this was for a lot of kids, and I'm not throwing him under the bus at all. Just he's the one that told me this. But I think it was they didn't have great relationships. I don't know if that necessarily leads to losing or not. There have been plenty of examples of teams that didn't like each other that still won, but those are few and far between compared to the teams that do like each other and the players that do like each other. I think that 2013 team, I don't think everybody was best friends, obviously, but I feel like they liked each other for the most part, and they certainly respected each other, and they played really hard for each other. And that, to me, just got lost somewhere.
When did you talk to Carlos Becker? Why are you holding out on us over here, man, on Wake Up War Chant?
Man, it must have been it was when Brady was in town for Brady's spring break, so it was a couple weeks ago. And, I just wrote it that day. Like I mentioned, I put it in a little notebook item because I was just stunned that he said it. But he's like, yeah, I'm getting to know teammates that I never talked to before. I'm like, oh, man, what? I'm like, you mean like Woodbay and guys that are just in Amari Gaynor? And he's like, no, guys that have been here. I'm like, wow, all right. But, maybe that's normal. I don't know. I wouldn't think that's normal, but it's certainly not a great sign of what it used to be like when you talk about a family atmosphere and people fighting for each other.
Yeah, that's crazy.
To use a cliche.
And he's injured. He was injured, and he let him talk, too. That's crazy.
Man, now you made me think it's not Carlos Becker. It was a Florida State defensive back. It might have been Calvin Bruton.
Okay, I was there.
Carlos Becker... Did Calvin Bruton talk to us this spring?
Yes.
Calvin Bruton.
Yes.
Same initials.
Goatee.
Essentially the same position.
Goatee.
Same
mustache.
football team.
Yeah. Close enough. It's all right. You're forgiven, man. Everyone loves the coracle, man. You can we'll let it slide.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, no, you're fine, man.
Boy.
Well, it's all right. We'll lick our wounds. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. More Wake Up War Chant coming up right here on ESPN 97.9 Tallahassee right after this.
The excitement of the Willie Taggart era at Florida State is in full force. That's why now's the perfect time to sign up at warchant.com. Warchant.com will have wall-to-wall coverage of spring football practice, including the latest on position battles, coach and player interviews, video features, and in-depth analysis. Warchant.com's three-team writers Gene Williams, Ira Schofel, and Corey Clark have 50 years of experience covering the Seminoles. And Warchant.com is the only FSU media outlet with a dedicated, full-time recruiting analyst in Tallahassee with the latest on the 2019 class. For your 30-day free trial subscription, head to Warchant.com and use promo code WARCHANT30.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Aslan. He's Corey. Wake up! It's Wake Up War Chant right here on ESPN 97.9 Tallahassee, brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. Corey, I actually went to Madison Social. I went to Madso again. I went to Madison Social like 3 times last week. Met up with my buddy for a beer on Tuesday night. We had our War Chant powwow lunch, business meeting there on a Wednesday, and then I had a couple of friends came down from Dothan to hang out. They came down to Tallahassee to go shopping. Like that's how dire things are in Dothan. They came down to Tallahassee to go shopping. So they're like, where should we go? I'm like, well, we go like the Gordo's, Momo's has got good pizza, or if you want to go where all the cool kids go, we go to Madison Social. And they're like, let's go to Madison Social. It was like 3 o'clock or 2:30 in the afternoon on a Saturday. They were still serving brunch, so I got the chicken and waffles. Delicious.
Oh, nice. That's fun.
Delicious.
So you, so they're from Dothan?
Well, no, one's from Philadelphia, one's from somewhere in South Carolina, but they both currently work in Dothan.
Okay. I was if they were from Dothan, they were probably upset there weren't more peanuts around.
Oh, no, man, they've had their fill of peanuts. Always covering the Peanut Festival. I mean, the Peanut Festival's in November, but I think they're already working on stories for the Peanut Festival. That's how big of a deal it is, man. It's
oh, boy.
The economic driver of the wiregrass, Southeast Alabama. But
hey. Man, well, hey, man. I mean, I like peanuts. Ain't nobody.
So
I'm from Georgia, man. We love peanuts.
Yeah, peanut farmer.
It's weird that the peanut festival wouldn't be in Georgia.
You guys should fight them for that. Maybe a civil war. Maybe this will spark the change that we need in this country right now. Just go to Alabama and reclaim the peanut. Because I think South Carolina is almost trying to take the peach away from you guys. Maybe you should worry about.
You know what I'm saying?
Your northern.
Yeah, you got the one state to the the left of us is trying to take our peanuts away. When we had a president that was basically Mr. Peanut. And then we had, now South Carolina wants to be the peach state with the big old giant peach in Gaffney or whatever that is on 85.
Yeah.
Come on, man. That's Georgia stuff. South Carolina, your thing is like potholes in the highway and stuff like that. And Alabama, you got Nick Saban. You don't need peanuts.
So I actually went to the NFL draft last year with one of my coworkers in Dothan. He was actually from Philadelphia, so on a whim, he was like, dude, we should go cover the NFL draft. I want to go home and see my family, and we should go cover the draft. I was like, all right, we can do that. And I'm like, I'll swing it. Anything to get out of here for a few days, right? So but we had to drive, though. It was like a 15-hour drive, and I did the whole thing. But, yeah, driving through South Carolina, I'm like, what's with all the peaches everywhere? I'm like, are we in Georgia still? I'm like, we're not in Georgia still, are we? But, yeah, South Carolina, trying to co-opt the peach. I don't like that, man. It's not cool. It's not cool at all.
I agree. Hey, you're preaching to the choir, my man.
Yeah, but
so yeah, the draft. Neither one of us knew until today that the NFL draft is actually this week.
I know. Well, I guess that's what happens when I don't know. There's a first round pick for sure. I mean, there's no way Derwin falls out of the first round, so we should be more on top of this.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine he's not going to be in the first round, and then you'll have who do you think's the second Florida State player drafted?
Josh Sweat, right?
You think so?
Got to be. I mean, who would go ahead of him? I mean, I still think...
I don't know. I mean, there's Naughty. I know Tate didn't run the 40, but there's Naughty, Tate, McFadden. I wouldn't touch any of those guys in the second round, but I'm not sure I would touch Josh Sweat in the second round either.
I don't know. I mean, pass rusher, those measurables. I mean, I don't know what he's got.
But again, the film, I mean, that's a high pick to draft someone that never really made an impact in college. At a high level, like at a second-round pick type level, in my opinion.
Well, I think you probably look at the tape. You talk to him about what his responsibilities were in that scheme, and then you project. I mean, right? Everything's a projection to a certain extent. Everything's a crapshoot, and you're thinking, well, geez, I don't even know what he was 6'5", 250, and he's running like the wind.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's got the excuse that man, I had that knee brace on the whole time. I'm a different athlete now, and that's a lot. That's viable. That's probably the truth. So it's not like that's an excuse. That's probably the truth. He was not anywhere close to that athlete when he had the knee brace on and he's coming off that injury.
And he's a very sort of introspective guy. He's a guy that you walk away after you talk to him. You're very impressed. This guy, football is important to him, but I don't think it's the most. Actually, that's probably not the right thing to say right now because Josh Rosen's slipping down boards because people think he doesn't love football enough. But Josh Sweat doesn't strike you as your typical sort of, just all about ball. He seems very, he's got a different sort of perspective on things, which I don't know, maybe some teams could appreciate. He's more mature, I would say, beyond his years. I mean, I know he's a junior coming out early, but the way he talks and even the way he looks, you're like, shoot, he looks like he's been in the league for 2 or 3 seasons. So I don't know how much of a benefit that'll be for him.
The NFL is weird when it comes to that, man. I don't know that the other major sports are like that. We're like, man, he doesn't like baseball enough, or I don't know that baseball is important to him enough, or basketball is important to him enough. Like Josh Sweat builds computers in his spare time.
Yeah, like
legitimately. I talked to one of his agents or handlers or whatever those people are at the combine. I think he works for the agency that is Josh's agent, and he showed me a picture of a computer that Josh Sweat had built just in his spare time, using all these different parts. Like it's a hobby he's had since high school, building computers. And then part of me was like, man, NFL teams must love that. And then the smarter part of me was like, well, no, judging from everything we hear and read by these blockheads that talk about the draft all the time, they don't want you to be too smart.
Yeah.
They're scared of a guy that's too smart. And they might be like, oh, what's he? We can't have a guy that knows how to build computers. He doesn't need football. It's almost like football has become like boxing, like where you have to be from a certain socioeconomic class, or you have to be a complete bulldog, gym rat type person that only cares about one thing. Otherwise, they're scared off by you.
I know, right? He's too nice. He's a nerd. He's a computer nerd. I can't trust him to get mad and go like want to devour a quarterback.
Or put in the time, it's his profession. It'll be his job. He's going to work at it. But these guys are allowed to have lives, and it's just really odd that these NFL guys always every year, these unnamed scouts say this just ridiculous stuff about how a guy doesn't love football enough. He's not going to be invested enough. Blah blah blah. He's too smart for his own good. You hear that a lot. What does that even mean? Yeah. Too smart for your own good when it comes to being an NFL quarterback. He's just supposed to do what you say, no matter how dumb he is. Like, you never I guess you just want, like, soldiers. Like, you just don't want them to question authority, and they're scared of that, and that's what they're scared of with Rosen, is they don't want a guy that's going to buck authority. Just do what you're told, even if it's, something you completely don't agree with. Don't have an opinion for yourself. Don't have a personality. Just fall in line and be a soldier.
I think that's what was so, I don't want to say refreshing because that's not the right word, but I think that was one of the more curious things I always thought about Jameis, was because Jameis was so skilled, and not to take credit away from the guy who helped groom him, but obviously he had a lot of God-given things and stuff that he developed before he got to Florida State. But like the way he would talk about Jimbo was like, he was so much like reverence to him and the system and trusting him. So like, and some of these other guys, obviously want to take, a lot of credit for what they do, but he would always kind of defer back and tip his cap to his coach. So that's probably one of the things that really appealed to, because he's a total football guy. I mean, like, Jameis lives, breathes, eats, sleeps it. He knows how to handle it, what to say, how to answer any sort of question that involves football, how to act, and everything when it comes to, being the guy that's a franchise sort of quarterback right now. So I don't know. I still think I think people would walk away from talking to him and being very impressed. And knowing that, listen, he's a guy that's not going to get in trouble. I don't. Obviously, we don't know these kids to the degree that sometimes people would like to think that we do. But I don't think this is a guy that's going to embarrass your franchise. And then again, 6'4", 251, and then he ran at 4.5, 340. The analysis on NFL.com has him going draft rounds 3 to 4. So I could see him maybe sneaking in round 2, late round 2. Somebody I don't know what team or system he would fit in, but I don't know. I think I could see him maybe slipping into round 2, but if not, if he goes round 3, then maybe Auden would jump him and be the second guy off the board for Florida State.
I know Auden didn't run at all. He was pretty slow at the combine and pretty slow at pro day, but man, I think he's a guy that can play in the league for 6, 8, 10 years. That body, his ball skills, his hands, he's got really strong hands. I think that really translates to the next level, where he could be a guy like a third or fourth receiver on a team for literally a decade if he gets in the right system and he gets the right offense to be in, just the right situation. I think he's a guy that could be 8 or 10 years in the league. I really like him. I think he's a money player. He makes big plays. He seems like a good kid that works hard. Not the fastest guy in the world, but really big and skilled.
Yeah, you need pass catchers in this day and age, and he's a guy that's got the size and the measurables, and he produced too. He produced when he was hurt, and I don't know how much. I don't know if that impresses teams more, or are they more leery about the fact that he was hurt. By and large, I think in 15, I think he only played one snap against Miami. They had a goal line throw in his direction when he was a freshman, and then after that he hurt his toe. I feel like he was out for most of the 2015 season as a freshman, and then last year he battled whatever he was going through. So none of durability would be an issue, but he is a guy that he produced in a very plodding, underperforming offense. He was probably the one sort of shining star. And listen, if that would have been a 10-win team with the numbers he put up, it's so much more impressive. But I think obviously with the expectations Florida State fans have when you go 7-6. Nobody's going to get a gold star from you as a fan, but he's a guy that he produced, man, for sure. At least he did last year.
Yeah, he was like a beacon in a dark, stormy sky.
Nice, putting in nautical references.
It's pretty good, right?
I like it, man. For what it's worth, NFL.com gives these prospects grades on a scale of 1 to 10. I think it goes. Josh Sweat is a 5.59, which falls on their chance to become NFL starter. A 9 to 10.
Oh, all right.
A 9 to 10 is once in lifetime player.
What's Derwin?
Oh, look at that. Derwin is a 6.44, which on their scale falls to should become instant starter, which is crazy, right?
6.44?
Yeah, that sounds very low, but that's a pretty good, distinction. That you should become an instant starter. Yeah. That's good. I will take that.
That's a pretty weird formula. Whatever formula they devise there with the grading system,
yeah,
to have that much difference between a guy that's going to be a perennial All-Pro and a guy that's an instant starter, that seems odd.
Yeah. Chance to become Pro Bowl caliber player is 6.5 to a 7.
Oh, so he just missed it.
Yeah,
he's so close. Derwin. I hope you understand. You'll probably have a nice career, but you really don't have a chance to be an All-Pro.
Yeah,
because you're a 6.44. We can't even round up to 6.5.
Just use the first paycheck, buy some orange groves in Polk County, and maybe you can, sustain for the rest of your life, Derwin. We'll see how it goes.
Or as Antone Smith famously said before, I think his 2008 season, that when he was going to retire, he was going to buy strip clubs and funeral homes because they never go out of business.
Also,
he wanted to own strip clubs and funeral homes because they never go out of business.
They're recession-proof. I mean, he's a smart guy. I don't know if he was a Florida State business school product, but, I mean, hey, man, when it's recession-proof, it's recession-proof. I also think before the 2002 season, people were asking Darnell Dockett, obviously he was going to be going to the draft after that season if everything went well, which, by and large did for him, at least personally. And I think they asked him, what he would buy when he got drafted, and he famously said he'd buy an ambulance. You never see anybody. Everyone's got Porsches and Lamborghinis, but never seen nobody drive no ambulance. So I don't know if you ever end up buying an ambulance, but
I hope he did. He should have bought 6 or 8 of them. He could have a fleet.
Yeah, shoot. Auden Tate, by the way, is a 5.43 on that scale, Corey, which puts him as an NFL backup or special teams potential.
Oh, okay. Auden, hey, I know they get but if he was like a 5.5, he has a chance to be a starter.
Yes, he would be chance
so
to become
it's that 0.07 that he's missing.
Yeah.
He's got to find that somewhere over the next few years. Just figure out that 0.07, and then he can go be a starter.
Dare I say it? He's just off by a few inches.
Oh, it's a game of inches, as we like to say.
It's a game of seconds and minutes here on radio. Let's step aside for a few of those. We'll be right back after this. More Wake Up War Chant coming up on ESPN 97.9 Tallahassee right after this.
You're locked in to Wake Up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Wake up! It's Wake Up War Chant, ESPN 97.9 Tallahassee. Aslan, that's me, Director of Digital Media for WarChant.com. He's Corey Clark, Senior Writer and Columnist for WarChant.com. Get your free 30-day trial over on WarChant.com. It's WarChant30 is the promo code. The show brought to you by For the Table Hospitality, and there are 3 locations over in the College Town District. So, Corey, just when, I think there's not going to be anything going on, I start getting anxiety, like, what are we going to do? What am I going to do on a day-to-day basis? Florida State, does all that great charity work on Saturday, which we talked about in the first segment. And then later today, Gene Williams, founder and administrator of WarChant.com, and myself will be heading eastbound on I-10. Maybe we'll see Vince Williams getting in a jog during the preseason.
That's an old school reference.
Oh, what, man? Shoot, man, I've been on the chant since 2003, man. Like, do we ever go over what got you on the site? Like, my thing was I worked at FedEx as a package handler back in the day, which means nothing to the story. I just gave FedEx a free plug. You're welcome, stockholders. It was the whole Adrian McPherson thing was going down in terms of he was he was getting suspended for a game, and it was like, what's going on? And then that's what put the hook in me, and then I've never left.
Mine is much more odd story than that, or odder. I got into the you remember the NCAA football game? Of course you do. I'm sure you played it.
Oh yeah.
And the thing I liked more than anything, I would start simulating seasons just so I could recruit. Because I thought I wanted to land 12 5-stars. I cared more about the recruiting classes than I did playing the games. And I just became obsessed with that. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm a Florida State fan. I've never paid attention to recruiting. I bet that's kind of fun to pay attention to the real thing too. So just one day, I think it was in 2000. It was Lorenzo Booker, Leon Washington class.
Yeah, 2002.
It was that. It was the fall of 2001. I was like, man, I wonder how Florida State's doing this year because they're not having a great season on the football field for the first time in 15 years. But I wonder if they're bringing in some really good players. And I started researching it, and that's how I got to War Chant. And then I'm like, I was living and dying with is Pat Watkins going to come? And and what about Booker, Leon Washington, Broderick Bunkley? Yeah. I remember all those guys from that class, Chris Davis.
Oh, yeah.
All those guys from that class. And I was like, that's what hooked me and got me on War Chant. I'm not nearly, as people who listen to this show know, I'm not nearly as invested in recruiting anymore. We got Michael Langston for that anyway. Heck, I don't even know the names of the guys on the team I talked to. Calvin Bruden, who knows? Carlos Becker, it doesn't matter. It's a C and a B, and I talked to him. Yeah. But yeah, that's how I got into War Chant. Was back in the fall of 2001 with that, following that recruiting cycle.
And life's never been the same for either of us. But as I was saying,
hey, I wanted to ask you: did you see the Jeremy Pruitt quote he had on Saturday at the spring game?
I do, because I follow Corey_Clark on Twitter, so of course I saw it.
How ridiculous is that, man?
It's
like what when did this become such a thing that you have to show your fandom? You need to show up to a meaningless exhibition game in April. Like screw you, dude. Tennessee has one of the best fan bases in the country. So anyway, the people that don't know, Jeremy Pruitt said after the spring game, he criticized the crowd. He's like, look, we got to figure out who we want to be. Well, I think I'm paraphrasing it, but he criticized the crowd, said some of the people that weren't there weren't interested in being there, and there weren't enough people there for him, and we've got to figure out who we want to be. Essentially saying the players and the coaches do, but the fans do too. Like, what kind of program are we going to be? And so I just felt the need to point out, man, last year that team went 4-8. They were on a 4-game losing streak and hosted Southern Miss, and they had 95,000 people in that stadium. And you're going to criticize that fan base, the one that's been starved for 20 years for anything close to the success it had under Phil Fulmer and being relevant again, and you're going to criticize them for not showing up and being as big a crowd as you wanted your first spring game. That fan base, one of the best in the country, one of the most loyal in the country. It bothers me so much. I almost want to write about it, but I can't on War Chant. If I worked at VolQuest or whatever, I might. But
do a ghost
who
writing.
are you, Jeremy Pruitt, to criticize Tennessee fans, man?
Yeah, do a ghost.
It really bothers me.
I was only there for a year, so I'm not going to try to pretend like I know. Actually, no, I was there for 5 years when you count Mississippi. This SEC stuff, Corey, it really is no joke. The pride they take in every single measurable calculus that involves anything with sports. It's uncomfortable if you're not part of the tribe, but everything matters to them. I mean, it's the tagline of the freaking station they have. Everything, it just means more. I don't get the whole point of keeping tabs on a spring game attendance. I don't get it. A-Day draws however many thousand, whoop-de-doo. This really
Nebraska drew like 86,000 for their spring game. What does that mean?
I don't know.
Does that mean they care more about football than every other place in the country? They have a better program than Tennessee or Alabama because they had more people at their spring game?
And here's the thing, though. So they have better fans. Let's go ahead and say they're more loyal,
sure.
They're more passionate, they're quote better fans. How does that help anything else? There's no kid commits because the fan base is great. No matter what they say, they come on an official visit, and there'll be a good environment for a home game, but ultimately they're committing to the coach, their fellow players, and the university.
Well, they would never commit solely on the fans. Right. It's an enhancement.
Yeah.
Like everything being equal, to me, if you're a kid and you're trying to decide between going to Miami and going to Florida State, and everything is completely equal across the board, you'd go to Florida State because you want to play in front of people. Yeah. Or if the difference is between Nebraska and UTEP, you're probably going to go to Nebraska because the fans do care more. But it's not something. A spring game attendance doesn't sway anything, right?
No, not at all. I think this
it just bothered me that Pruitt had the audacity, the guy that got handed an NFL defense at Florida State and got handed NFL defense at Alabama to all his success. He's going to talk to those people that have been invested for 20 years. When he was still in high school, they were selling out that. When he was in his mama's lap, when he was a year old, they were selling out Neyland Stadium. And he's going to criticize those fans? Come on, man. That place is going to be there long before you go, wherever you go. And you've been there for 3 months, and you're going to criticize one of the best fan bases in the country because they didn't show out for a spring game. Man, if I was a Tennessee fan, I would be really worried. Like, oh God, we went from Butch to this dummy, because that's just a dumb thing to say. Why would you alienate your fan base?
One of the fans replied to it. It sounds to me like we got exactly what we asked for. A no-nonsense coach that says what's on his mind. #GoVols. He's a guy that he needs to be uncomfortable. He can't be happy. He can't smile. He needs to be uncomfortable. Excuse me, as you pass on whatever you have to me over the internet.
Yeah, I didn't know I could do that.
Yeah. He's one of those guys, he's just constantly irascible. Like he needs, he has to.
That's a good word.
He's always, it's going to be uncomfortable. This needs to be better. Nothing's ever going to be good enough. And we'll see how long that lasts before it starts wearing people down. And I imagine he'll be a real peach at booster functions because he's not a very good talker. He's not very charismatic. And he's ultimately going to probably have this same sort of chip on his shoulder or just constant demanding of more. Maybe he'll turn it on, but we'll get to see that later today. As I was saying, Gene and myself will be going to Jacksonville. Willie's going to have the first stop of his booster tour over in Jacksonville. What would you think the fans will walk away from that? The ones that go in Duval, if I can say that. I don't have any credibility over there in the 954, but
Duval.
Or was it
was that better?
904. Yeah. I think that was better, much better, Corey. So yeah, I mean this is his first time interfacing, with the booster sort of. Actually, it was in the Brevard County thing, which
interfacing. I like that word. That's a good word.
It's Monday. I'm on my game, man. I had a good weekend of rest. I
think those four. It's sold out, right? It's like 400, 500 people there.
Sounds about right. Yep.
Yeah, I think I saw something on Facebook or some sort of social media about it being sold out and being 450 people. Man, they're going to come away really, really excited about the guy. I just can't imagine he won't hit these things out of the park because, again, it's not an act. He's genuine in how he feels about the university. And, yeah, he wants your money. And, yeah, he wants your support. And, yeah, he wants to build things. But he's a genuine person and really cares about the program. Well, he cares about himself. He cares about the program. He cares about the kids. But he's really excited about this position that he's in. He still, I think, is kind of amazed that he's the head coach at Florida State. And I think that reverence that he has for the program is going to come off and be – you're going to be able to feel it when you do feel it. We felt it when you're in the room with him talking about it. It comes off. It's genuine, and the people in that room are going to feel that, and that's just going to make them more and more excited. And whether the last guy was great with boosters or not, this guy would be awesome with them. I think it's enhanced because of who he's replacing, but I think he would be a home run in those settings regardless.
The event is sold out, over 400. Due to the number of attendees, seating will be limited. They will actually have an overflow room with a live feed of Willie Taggart's comments. So, Taggart.
I mean, you see what I mean? He is just connected with this fan base in a way that's truly remarkable.
You've been hanging out with Leonard.
Going back to it's great, right? And going back to the point I was trying to make with Pruitt is, it became such a big deal at Alabama when they sold out their spring game, and then Jimbo wanted it. Jimbo saw that. For whatever reason, that's a big deal to Saban, to show out for your spring game, or it was when he was building his programs. So then Jimbo asked for it at Florida State. I was here at Atlanta when Kirby was wanting to sell out the G-Day last year or 2 years ago. Whenever he took over his first spring game, he wanted to sell it out. Now Jeremy Pruitt is talking about how he's upset about the spring game crowd. And it bothers me that these guys from this particular tree of coaching care so much about the spring game and use the attendance to judge a fan base that they have no connection to. Now, Kirby Smart obviously does with Georgia, but to judge fans for not showing up to a scrimmage, man, just hope they show up to your games. And you know what? Don't go 4-8 again. Tennessee's dealt with enough losing in the last 20 years that maybe they wanted to do something else with their Saturday, man. That doesn't mean they're not coming in the fall, because they always come in the fall. But give them a good product before you start criticizing how they respond to you.
What always comes?
Anyway, I'm off my soapbox now. Sorry, buddy.
You're fine. What always comes in the summer is the rise of Mike Martin and his Noles. Florida State fresh off a sweep of Boston College. We'll talk more about the baseball team and Mike Martin's date with destiny, which is quickly approaching as the winningest coach in major Division I college baseball history. We'll wrap things up on Wake Up War Chant right after this.
You're locked in to Wake Up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Welcome back on into Wake Up War Chant. I'm Aslan Hajavandi. He is Corey Clark. We are brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. It's Wake Up War Chant, ESPN 97.9 Tallahassee. Corey, Florida State, 3 up, 3 down in Boston this past weekend, including a game at Fenway on Saturday. The Noles now, they got Mike Martin. 11's only, 3 wins away now, I think? Is that what it is?
I believe he's 3 wins away, buddy. So and they play. Do they play Stetson once or twice this week? I know they're on the road at Stetson on Tuesday,
just once,
and then they got Miami for 3 games this weekend at home.
Yeah, and then they have.
So if you're in Tallahassee and you want to see the record broken, there's a chance it could happen this weekend.
Yeah, and if it doesn't, though, they have no midweek game, and then they'll be in Clemson the following weekend.
Ooh, okay,
yeah,
all right.
So it could be a little bit, but. Andrew Karp, successful in his sort of debut in the weekend rotation. He's actually the winningest pitcher in the ACC right now with 7 wins.
Look at that. Well, yeah, man, that was, they didn't pitch well really at all up there. They won the first game. They blew a lead. They had 6 errors. I think they won 13-12. And then they didn't pitch well on Saturday either, winning 13-7 or whatever it was. But the biggest deal to me was because I think Drew Parrish is fine. There's nothing to worry about there. And you will get Cole Sands back eventually. But Carp coming in the rotation and pitching that well, I think is probably the biggest thing you take away from the weekend, right? I mean, BC doesn't have much pitching, and Florida State bats did to BC pitching what they were supposed to do. Stephen Wells was incredible. I don't remember ever covering a Florida State player that had 12 straight hits.
Yeah, that's nuts. Fire, man. Stephen Wells. Yeah, he's been a revelation of late, so hopefully he can keep it going.
I mean, he's probably going to face a bit tougher pitching here coming up in the next few weekends, but it's still good, man, and that does do wonders for your confidence. But yeah, the thing I take away the most is Carp was really good. And they need him to be. If you have Parrish, Carp, and Sands, that's a pretty decent weekend rotation. I mean, it's not Wilson and Jonathan Johnson or anything, but it's a pretty decent weekend rotation. And then you hope the bats have come alive. I know Mendoza had a few more hits up there and got on base a good bit. By the way, I'm actually going to talk to Meat later on today. Kobe Johnson, I don't know where this came from, but he's like a hitter. He's like a DH now and doing well. He had his 3-run homer in his first at bat last week, and then up in Boston had a couple more hits, including a triple. So I think he's like actually a legitimate part of their lineup now moving forward. It's kind of bizarre. He had only 1 at bat in his career until this season, until last week.
It's the Shohei Ohtani effect, man. I'm telling you, Tyler Holton would have been the guy. Tyler Holton would have so much publicity around him right now as this ace pitcher that can also swing the heck out of the bat, but we'll take Kobe for right now. It's crazy. Please do get some sort of clarity on how they figured this thing out, because I mean, I imagine the pitchers help with infield practice. They're hitting ground balls and hitting pop-ups. Right. So I don't know what they could have gleaned from that, but they obviously something, and it's pretty cool. Pretty cool story.
Yeah, and again, more than anything, I guess the coolest story moving forward is these next 3 wins. It would be nice and cyclical. He got his first win against Miami, I think, in 1944, and yeah, that's right. It was right. 2 weeks before Normandy.
It was, yeah, right before the Western
Mike Martin got his first win of his career, and no, I think it was 1980, maybe. I can't remember the exact day, but his first win was down in Miami, and that would be nice if he could get the record breaking win against Miami too. Or it might be on the road at Clemson, or it might be, in Omaha. Who knows?
Do you think?
Well, no, it couldn't be in Omaha. There's no way it could be in Omaha.
Yeah, no way. Do you think it'll be anticlimactic when it happens, regardless of where it does happen?
I mean, I just don't know how climactic a college baseball record like this could be. I just I don't want to call it a fringe sport, but it's not a popular sport. I would guess if you asked 100 sports fans who holds the record for college baseball wins, maybe 6 of them would guess it. Yeah. Casual. Right. I just don't think it's a huge record, and so I think it'll be anticlimactic in that sense. But I also think it's a cool record that I can't imagine will ever be broken.
No, I'm not trying to. I'm not diminishing how important it is. I just feel like it's obviously huge because it's going to be attached to this university probably until the sun burns out. I don't see any other coach ever stringing together 1,978 or however many wins he's going to end up stringing together before the season's over. I just feel like it was like when Bowden finally eclipsed Paterno. I remember it was like the 2002 season. I think they beat Wake Forest. They're carrying him off the field, and you're like, man, it's October. They still have 5 more games. The season is not. I think they already had a loss or 2 already under their belt. I just think with obviously his legacy, the thing that's missing the most is the thing that he needs the most. So I don't know. It'll be if it happens at Hauser, it'll be great. It'll be special, but it's just kind of like, especially if he does like on a Saturday, it's like, all right, we'll see you tomorrow. We're gonna play another game, and hopefully I'll add to my record. It's just one of those things where I feel like there's no finality to it, because it's one of those things I think we'll definitely appreciate when he finally decides to hang it up more so than we might 5-6 days from now.
For sure, and I also think it'll be something that, like you said, will be appreciated more. I think it'll be appreciated more 15 or 20 years from now. I just think when people realize, man, there's nobody that's ever going to – I can't imagine anybody else is going to approach 2,000 wins in college baseball. That's incredible. That's an incredible number. That's 40 wins for 40 straight seasons. And that's only 60 – that's 50 wins for 40 straight seasons. That's what he's averaged. I mean, that's insane. And right, am I doing my math correctly? I feel like I am. And again, forgive me, folks, Georgia public schools, but I mean that's an incredible number that I don't know that could ever be reached again because they don't play as many games as they did back in the 80s and early 90s. And it's almost unreachable to me. It's almost like Cy Young's record. It just won't ever be approached again. So that's cool that Florida State will always have that record. And yes, there is an asterisk that will always be on Mike Martin's resume. Until it somehow happens and he actually gets one, it will always be but. Yeah. And we just understand that. But you can still appreciate what he did for this at this program, even with the 0 next to the national championship.
To put it in perspective, the next guy that could replace Mike Martin could win 40 games for 40 years, and he'll still fall over 300 games short of what Mike Martin's going to set for the overall record. I mean, that'd be 1,600. So that just, I mean, it's
400. It's crazy. He'd have to coach 50 years to get 40 wins a year to get to 2,000 wins. It's just it really is, and I think it does kind of lose its luster because of the 0 national championships, which I don't know. I mean, I guess that's fair. I don't know. I'm not judging anyone's fandom, but when you just step back and look at how incredible they have been, how good they've been for 40 straight years, it's a remarkable accomplishment. And I do hope it happens at Hauser. I want it to be appreciated in front of the Florida State fans, which have been a really big part of his success over the last 40 years too.
Remarkable accomplishment. We got through a Monday without much nonsense. There you go, hardcore sports fans. Enjoy it. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. It's a wrap on Wake Up War Chant. Jeff Cameron coming up at 3.
WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source, knows now is a time of true excitement for Nole fans everywhere. That's why WarChant.com is especially proud to announce its newest team member, senior writer Corey Clark. Combine Corey's expertise with owner Gene Williams and managing editor Ira Schafel, and WarChant.com boasts nearly 50 years of experience covering the team you love. It's Taggart time in Tallahassee, and that means now is the perfect time to sign up for your free 30-day trial. From National Signing Day to March Madness, WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.